Hey friends, welcome to Flite Test Tech. I'm Josh. Today we're going to be showing you everything you need to do to build your very own Easy Sky Kart. The FT Sky Kart is part of our FT Easy Mario Flight Pack series. Now both our Easy Sky Kart and our Easy Bola are inspired from some of our favorite video games. We wanted to bring those video games to life with something that you guys can build, fly, enjoy, in this case, even drive. Our FT Easy Sky Kart builds incredibly quick, so make sure that you put your battery on charge, and the only tools we're going to need is a hot glue gun and maybe a triangle square. Let's go ahead and get our materials in order and we'll get started. So our first steps in building our FT Easy Sky Kart here is to pop out all the pieces. Now you're gonna notice that there's different characters. Let's go ahead and pop all those out. And when it comes time, you can choose which one to install, or you can even design your own. So now that all of our pieces are popped out, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna identify each and every one of these pieces and kind of give you an explanation of what they're meant for. First, we have our main body. Next, we have the two sides of our car. These small black pieces that you see here are actually our Delrin skids. This is gonna be able to protect our wheels and also help give that classic drifting capability that we want for our Sky Kart. We have our two motor mounts, and then we have our three main characters. One really special thing about our characters here is our good friend, the laser master himself, Jason McQuiston, has came up with a new technique to be able to put etching on both sides. This means whether you're flying left to right or right to left, you're gonna be able to see something really cool on the character. And then finally, we have our barbecue skier, which is gonna act as our front bumper for our front wing and also give us some much needed aerodynamics. Feel free to pause the video at this point if you need to, and make sure all the pieces look just like what you see here. Now all of our pieces are popped out, we're gonna put our energy towards the main center wing. And before we put the sides of our car on, we wanna go ahead and put our front bumper with this barbecue skier on and wrap the foam around. To do that, all we simply need to do is take this front score cut, fold it over 180 degrees, and then carefully peel the paper. What we should have now is a piece of facing paper that's on the upper part of the wing. And now we can go ahead and align that with our barbecue skier. We're gonna take the barbecue skier just to the edge on each side, just like that. I like to use my nail and crack it in all four axes here, and it'll break nice and clean. We're gonna apply a bead of glue here, starting and stopping about a 1/4 inch from the edge, right on the back of our foam. From that point, we can place our barbecue skier in place and press it down. I always kind of like to go to our table and use it as our friend here, just to make sure that we have this positioned right. There we go. Now that our barbecue skier is glued down, we're gonna put an additional bead of glue right in front of the barbecue skier, again, starting and stopping about a 1/4 inch from each edge. We're gonna use the table as our friend, and we're gonna fold this around slowly and allow the glue to kind of work its way out towards the edge of the paper. Whenever I fold this around, I always like to kind of creep forward very slowly, and what this does is it gives us the ability to be able to really smooth out this edge. Another handy trick you can do is you can do the exact same process but with a metal roller. This is going to rapidly cool the glue, but also keep it from sticking to the table. Now that we have our barbecue skier installed, you're going to notice a score cut on the very bottom here, and this is going to be where our elevator is going to be able to deflect up and down. So we're going to want to make sure that the score cut is facing towards the bottom when we put the sides of our car in place. With our etch marks pointing towards the outside, let's go ahead and first install our first half. We always like to do a test fit first to make sure everything fits nicely, and it does. Now that we're happy with the fit, we're going to apply a bead of glue in between the three notches. Make sure that you don't apply any glue on the back elevator. Now you can go right back down again. 1, 2, and 3. It's really important that we keep this perpendicular. And if you don't have a triangle square available, we have an awesome crafty kit that's available in our store that gives you everything you need to not only build these awesome easy planes, but also all of our foam board models. I'm just gonna go ahead and put our triangle square right up against the body and the lower wing, and we're gonna hold it in place until it's fully dry. Now that we have one side done, let's go and do the same process on the other side. We always like to do a test fit before we glue it into place. 1, 2, 3, that's perfect. And then we'll apply a nice healthy bead of glue. Again, making sure that we don't put any glue where our elevator is gonna be. 1, 2, and 3. And just like before, we're gonna hold our triangle in place and let it fully dry. Now that we have both sides of our car glued to the wing, let's go ahead and put our attention towards the lower skids. These skids are incredibly important because this is what's going to take the wear and tear away from the wheels and also allow you to do those awesome drift maneuvers on harder surfaces. These skids are simply going to go ahead and glue on the very bottom of the wheels, and you're going to notice they just slightly protrude beyond the foam board and make contact first. All we need to do is put a very thin bead of glue, not too much, and then set them in place. Be very careful that you don't get any of your hot glue on top of the Delrin skids, or else it's going to actually grip to the floor rather than slide over it. Let's do this on all 4 wheels. One of the really cool things about Delrin is how incredibly tough it is, but also how amazing it slides over different surfaces. We tried a lot of different materials and it seemed like Delrin was the perfect choice every single time. You can now see that the wheels are not only protected, but also that it glides really easy. Now for this model specifically, we're going to be using the FT Easy Power Pack V2. The V1 will simply not provide enough power to be able to lap both this and also our Easy Bolt to be able to fly properly. The FT Easy Power Pack 2 has a larger motors, larger battery, and also a much better transmitter. The first thing we want to do is install our props and make sure that the right props go with the right motor. Our FT Easy Power Pack V2 is incredibly special to us because we put a lot of extra goodies in it, and it also serves as a great carrying case for the transmitter and the extra stickers. You're going to notice that along with our decals here that we also have these tiny little rectangle pieces of tape. These are fantastic for being able to tape down guide wires, but also lock in deflection on things like your elevons as well too. I'm going to go ahead and put that aside. I'm going to go ahead and take my transmitter out, and we'll put some batteries in that in just a second. But the first thing I want to do is locate my motors. You're going to see a red motor and a blue motor that are both also labeled left and right. The easiest way to identify left and right on an airplane is just to think about when you're driving in a car. When you're driving in a car, the driver's on the left-hand side, so left is left, right is right. Before we install our motors, we want to install our props. And it's very important that we install our props in the proper way. Now this plane is going to be what we call tractor configuration, which means it's just like a tractor trailer or a semi-truck. It's going to be pulling the airplane through the air. Other designs we have are actually pusher configurations. Whether it's tractor or whether it's pusher, you want to make sure that your prop is on the right side and also on the right orientation. Let's go ahead and do that right now. On both of our props, you're going to notice that there's a small A logo and a small B logo, and then there's a rounded edge. For a tractor configuration, we're going to want to line up our B with the blue motor, but also very importantly, we're going to want the rounded edge of the tip of the prop to go towards the motor. A very easy way to be able to install this prop is to take it to the edge of the table and lay the base of the can of the motor right on the table, line up the hole, and with some even but firm pressure, we're going to push it down on the motor shaft. The first time you do this, it is going to be a little bit difficult because it's going to be quite tight. But after that, it'll loosen up. We also have some really cool prop removal tools that are very handy if you're gonna go from plane to plane. So we got our B to our blue with the little rounded dot in the middle. Now we have our A motor that's gonna go to red. We're gonna do the same process. Again, I always like to support the bottom can against the table because that way we don't push the motor and damage it. Just gentle firm pressure straight down is all you need. Make sure it spins nice, and make sure that you don't push it all the way tight against the bottom of the motor. That's going to cause drag and kill your performance. Now that we have our props installed, we're going to go ahead and install them onto our motor mounts. Now these motor mounts are very special because what they hold is actually the right amount of height and also the right thrust angle to allow our Easy Kart to be able to fly. It's really important that when we mount these, that we mount them on the right side. So just as if I was going to be driving in the car, the left-hand side is on my left and the right-hand side is on my right. You're going to notice that each of our motors actually have an R and an L on them. It's going to be very important when we glue these on to make sure that we have them in the right orientation so the motors sit just on the inside of our motor mounts. So we have our right motor, that's going to go ahead and face on the inside. Let's go ahead and glue that down. Simple bead of glue on both sides, just like that. And then we're going to hook the motor over and then press it down into place. Make sure that when you press your motor down that you're pressing it flat against the wood and that's not on an angle, or else it'll cause your cart to be able to go one direction or the other. Now that we have a right motor mount installed, we can guide our wire on through. And we'll just do a quick test fit. Press it down into place. We want to make sure that when we look laterally, that the motor mount is parallel to the side of our fuselage. It's not turned one direction or the other. Once we're happy with that, we can place a bead of glue right over the portion where our motor mount's set and the little slot that's cut in our wing. And then we can go back one final time and press it down. There we are. Again, we're checking to make sure that our motor is parallel to the body and it's also perpendicular to the wing. We're gonna do the exact same process now on the other side. Again, we're gonna take our motor mount. We have our left motor. We want our motors facing inwards, so we're gonna mount them just like that. So we have our motor pointing this way and our next motor pointing that way. Bead of glue on both sides. Take our little hooks, slide it over, and press it down. Once our glue is dry, we can pass our lead through our little tiny hole in the back and we can go for a test fit. As we can see, our motor is parallel to the body and it's also perpendicular to the wing. Once we're happy with the fit, we're going to put a bead of glue and we'll press it down into place one final time. Now that our motors are installed, now would be a really good time before we install our favorite character to do any decorating that you'd like to do. Now, along with our crafty kit, we have a really cool set of markers that have a broad tip and also a thin tip to give you the perfect ability to be able to decorate. Before we install our character, we always want to make sure we do a test fit, and it's also very important that we keep the notch that's on the very left-hand side nice and open. So we're going to go ahead and drop this in. We're going to check our fit, and again, we're going to make sure that the notch on the left-hand side is open. Once we're happy with that, we can place a bead of glue right on the bottom of our character. I'll just do it right in the front here as well too. Bring it right back down to the wing and we'll set it in place. Make sure when you install your favorite character that it's perpendicular to the wing as well. Once your character is fully dry in place, you can also go back and reinforce it with an extra bead of glue on the other side. Now that we have our favorite character installed, we're next going to install our flight control board. Our flight control board is located inside of our Easy Power Pack. And you're going to notice that we have a battery lead, a switch, an LED light, and an antenna. It's very important that whenever we install this, so the battery lead is pointing towards the front of the nose, the antenna and the switch are pointing down, and that we mount it on the left-hand side. Before we install our flight control board here, we're going to go ahead and line up our red motor lead and our white motor lead, and we're going to plug them in ahead of time. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll have our red one here. We're going to line up our pins. Press that into place, and we have our white one. There we go. You're gonna notice that there's two optional white connectors on the very top. Those are for our LED lights. We have new colors coming out in the very near future, even black light, which means you can decorate with highlighter and UV paint, which means you can make this look incredible in the day or even at nighttime. Now that we have our motor leads plugged in, we're gonna guide the battery lead up from the bottom. And we're gonna go ahead and guide this on through and press it into place. You're gonna notice that half the control board is on the top and the other half is on the bottom. We're gonna go ahead and do a couple drops of glue just to lock this down into place. And that way, if we ever need to remove it, it's very easy to do so. We'll just open this up, drop one, drop two. And then we're gonna hold this in place firmly up against our character because we don't want this to be at an angle. Now would be a really good time to dress your wires up to make this look really nice. Included in our Easy Pack are these little tiny strips here that we can use to guide the wires and also lock in the proper angle in our elevator. I'm just gonna go ahead and press these in and tape them down. There we go. You're gonna notice on the very bottom of our sky cart here that we have two little dots. Those dots are gonna be where our center of gravity is located. Center of gravity is incredibly important for any of our models to be able to fly properly. And the way we establish our center of gravity is by using the position of our battery. We're gonna slide our battery into place right through the middle here. And you're gonna see that we have the ability to move our battery forward and backward to get the optimum flight characteristics that we want. After we paint this, oftentimes planes would move their center of gravity just from the weight of the paint or decorations from one side to the other, and you can use your battery to establish the proper center of gravity even after it's decorated. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this right in the middle here. I'm gonna put my fingers on the two bottom dots. I know it's pretty far forward. And you can see that it balances perfectly. This is gonna be a great setup to get our first flights in and see how it flies. Now with the proper center of gravity, we still need something called Reflex. Reflex is gonna be the up elevator that we have on our flying wing designs that give it just enough conflict to be able to track through properly. If you don't have the right amount of up elevator or up reflex, you're gonna notice that the plane's gonna fish or dive altogether. Less up elevator is gonna give you a faster, smoother flight. More up elevator is gonna give you more of a high angle of attack and a slower flight for indoors. For this model here, I'm gonna go with a very minimal amount of up elevator because I'm gonna be flying outside and I wanna fly a little bit faster. But we can change this anytime we want. So here's flat. You can see right here, I'm gonna put my nail here. I'm gonna go up just about the width of the foam and lock it in. Now that we have the proper amount of up deflection, we have the motors installed, let's go ahead and power everything up, make sure our motors run in the right direction, and then we're ready to take it out and fly it. Our first step here is we're gonna go ahead and plug in our battery. Once we plugged in our battery, we can flip the switch forward and you're gonna notice a rapid flashing red light. Once we power on our transmitter with the throttle fully closed, that's gonna move to a slower flashing light and you'll see a rapid flashing light on our transmitter. All we need to do to complete the bind process is go full throttle and then close throttle. At this point, both lights on the transmitter and the flight controller are now solid red. We're ready to fire this up. What you're gonna notice is when we back up one of the motors, that it winds up. This is the gyros working to keep your motors flying the airplane in the right direction. Now, whenever we turn the motor, when we power it up, and we push it to the left, we should hear the right motor spool up. When we push it to the right, we should hear the left motor spool up. Everything is working properly. We're ready to take this out for its very first flight and test drive. All right, friends, we are ready to go ahead and fly our Easy Sky Cart here up for the first time here. A couple things to make sure that we have a little bit of reflex, a little up angle on our back elevator. We're gonna adjust that to get the kind of flight characteristics we want. We got our center of gravity established, and we're also gonna go ahead and power on our control board, our transmitter, and we're gonna bind it by going full throttle and close throttle. So now it's working here. If you have grass around you, it's no big deal. We can easily launch this just by grabbing the top of our character and tossing it in at about 3/4 throttle here. Along with that also, we wanna make sure that we have high rates. To get the high rates, we're gonna hit our upper right-hand button and our red light on our transmitter will now be flashing. Let's go ahead and see how it flies. There we go. So I have a little bit more up elevator than what I want, but you can see if you're inside of a gymnasium, this would be perfect for you. I'm gonna go ahead and make a quick adjustment here. I'll go just a little bit more down. You don't wanna leave this perfectly flat because if you do, it'll spike into the ground. Just want just a little bit of up. And I'm gonna move this guy a little bit forward. Here we go. And you can see by adjusting the center of gravity here, you can change the flight characteristics to anything you want, whether it's slow flying in the gymnasium or whether it's speeding around the backyard more flat. Anytime you go above half throttle, you're gonna notice it's gonna climb very nicely for you. And then anytime when you go below half throttle, it'll descend. And even on somewhat of a breezy day here, you can see it flies fantastic. This design right here is probably one of the most challenging designs we've ever done to get it to fly properly, both as an indoor flyer, outdoor flyer, and to build consistently. When it's time to land the FT Easy Sky Kart, make sure that you don't go completely close throttle, but carry about 10% throttle. That'll give you a nice gentle descent, and you can still steer it very easy. When you close the throttle completely, there's a feature called anti-spin that will be activated, which will actually give you half throttle and keep you from descending. All right, let's go ahead and land her here. There we are. Friends, I want to thank you for being part of the Flite Test family. Thank you so much for taking the time to build with us, fly with us, and create some memories. We're really excited to add more and more aircraft to the FT Easy line. Make sure you hit that subscribe bell because we have many more great builds for you in the future. See you next time.